We're getting an announcement from Attorney General Merrick Garland set to appoint a special counsel in the Trump probe. Evan, tell us.
That's right. So in the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to hear from the Attorney General directly, but he has appointed a special counsel to oversee the investigations, the twin investigations into the former president. One of them, of course, is the Justice Department's investigation of the retention of national security information. These are the classified documents that were found by the FBI during the search at the former president's residence in Palm Beach, in Mar-a-Lago. The second part of this is parts of the January 6th investigation that touch on the former president. Of course, you know that one of the things the Justice Department has been looking into is the involvement of the former president and people around him in the effort to obstruct the transfer of power after the 2020 election. He was involved in the fake elector scheme and in the entire effort to try to prevent Congress from certifying Joe Biden's victory at the end of the 2020 election. So those are two things that the special counsel, who has already been appointed by the Attorney General, who is now going to oversee those two key aspects of these two investigations. Now, we're going to hear a little bit more about who the Attorney General has appointed when the Attorney General comes out to speak again in about 30 minutes or so, and we're going to hear a lot more about exactly why this was done. But look, we previously reported, we broke the story here at CNN that this was something that was in discussion at the Justice Department, and part of the calculation was the idea that having someone not part of the political leadership here, under the political leadership here, overseeing these investigations was important if the former president declares that he is a candidate for office once more, given the fact that obviously he might be running against Merrick Garland, the Attorney General's boss, Joe Biden, if he decides to run for re-election. So that's part of the issue, which was to try to insulate those two investigations and keep them out of the realm of politics. Of course, you guys know that you can try to do that, but then of course it has to do with Donald Trump, and there's probably no way to divorce yourself entirely from the political atmosphere of this.
Evan, stay with me. I want to bring in Jessica Schneider, who is learning more about the deliberations that took place to get to this point. What have you learned, Jessica?
Well, Anna, as Evan just mentioned here, it was our team 2 weeks ago that broke that news that the DOJ was considering whether or not a special counsel would be necessary once Trump announced his candidacy for a second term. Of course, that announcement happening earlier this week on Tuesday night. So presumably the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, acting fairly quickly here within a matter of days to decide to name a special counsel to oversee these two parallel and very big probes that are ongoing into January 6th and also the alleged retention of classified documents at the former president's home in Palm Beach, Florida, Mar-a-Lago. So this has been something that the DOJ has been considering for many weeks as all of these investigations have really crescendoed. And that announcement will be coming today from the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. Evan talked a little bit about a special counsel, the fact that it can somewhat insulate the Department of Justice from any cries of politicization here. Of course, those cries are going to come inevitably. But ultimately, what's important to note here is that even though this special counsel will be named very shortly by the Attorney General, he'll reveal who it is. That special counsel will operate independently. However, ultimately, any decisions about whether to charge the former president, Donald Trump, or any of his associates, that's something that will in fact be run by and approved ultimately by the Attorney General and top officials at the Justice Department. Of course, the United States public has seen this before. We saw Robert Mueller be named as special counsel by then Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. That was way back in 2017. We saw that probe ongoing for at least a year and a half, I believe. And then, of course, we still have a special counsel, John Durham, who's been ongoing and actually unsuccessful in several prosecutions that he's brought So this will be a special counsel that will be announced by the Attorney General. We're expecting that live announcement at 2:15. Presumably the Attorney General will name who the special counsel will be and then explain the parameters of this investigation and what he'll be overseeing. But Anna, it will be quite broad because obviously these two parallel tracks into the former president's involvement in January 6, trying to overturn the 2020 election, and then of course that continuing investigation that popped up over the summer that we all learned about into the alleged retention of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. So expecting more from the Attorney General in just about a half hour here, Anna.
Do we know who he's planning to appoint, or is he just going to announce that he's made a decision to have a special counsel?
Yeah, I know Evan's actually over at the Justice Department. He seemed to indicate that the Attorney General will probably name who the special counsel is. And bringing you back to 2017, when Rod Rosenstein named or announced that there would be a special counsel, he did name that it would be Robert Mueller right away. So it's expected that Attorney General Garland will do the same here and announce who this special counsel actually will be. But we'll stay tuned for that.